Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. And if it's your first time here, I'm Janetta, an author who loves to draw. On my channel, I focus on combining storytelling with art. If that's something you're interested in, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let's get to it.
Chapter 19. Dante waited for Lang in one of their Virginia safe houses. He did not like the idea of Brooklyn being followed again. He hated she met Lang, otherwise he could send her to follow Brooklyn. He looked at the clock, wondering what was taking Lang so long. She was supposed to be doing some digging on Megan. An hour later, he heard a knock on the door and keys jingling in the hallway. About time, he huffed as Lang let herself in. Dante. Miss Megan is something else. This former honor roll student has been arrested for aggravated assault, drugs, and other things. However, it's her talent for hacking computer systems that almost got her put away for a long time. Lang pulled out the notepad and file from her bag and sat next to Dante. Dante could tell by the way her eyes sparkled that she had found something big. She flipped open the file and slid it in front of him. Miss Megan is actually Mrs. Megan. This chick has been married for at least a year prior to showing up to work at Bevic Media. What? Married to whom? Dante scanned the file in front of him for information. You're kidding me, right? Nope, she's married to Alex Michaels. Lang just looked at him. What? He hadn't expected her to be married to Trivision's owner. That would explain why Trivision was able to find his home residence. After Lang's incident, he put his personal residence under an LLC. With Megan's skill set, Dante could only assume that she was able to dig beyond the layers. He made a mental note to have that and other information encrypted so it could no longer be easily found. My question is why she was really working for Bevic. She started jotting in her notebook. Dante shook his head. Why did she start dating Ryan if she was married? It felt like the more they found, the more questions it produced. Don't know. I called her parents to update them on our progress. They were clueless to the fact that their daughter is married. Lang flipped through her notebook. Now, if we find out how she met her husband, maybe we'll understand this mess we're tangled in. Hey, I'll go to the parents this evening. I want to find out who referred them to us. He glanced at the list of questions that they hadn't answered. Okay, I'll attempt to find out more on Alex Michael / Alec McNair and how he met Megan. Oh, we may have another problem. Brooklyn thinks she's being followed, Dante reported, debating on how they should tell Megan's parents about their suspicions. It may prevent them from cooperating with them in the future if they have further questions. Followed by who? Lang questioned. We got Trivision off of her. Dante stood. She thought it was me trying to teach her a lesson so that she'd listen when I tell her a situation was dangerous. Clearly it's not you. Maybe you bringing her with you freaked her out a little. Lang shook her head. Probably. But someone breaking into her office this weekend didn't help any. Dante walked into the kitchen grabbing a soft drink. What did they take? From the sounds of it, they ransacked it while looking for a file. Dante reached into the refrigerator, grabbing Lang's favorite fruit drink. They must be looking for something important, she stated as Dante walked over and handed her the drink. Yes, and that something must be big if it makes someone blow up Tuck's office and break into Brooklyn's office all in one day. Dante spoke as he sat back down. Lang smiled, opening the drink. It looks like you got what you wanted. Dante stared at her confused. And what's that? More time with Brooklyn. She shrugged her shoulders and took a sip of her drink. How do I get more time with Brooklyn? If she has information, we need it, especially if they're going after it like that. Lang explained, then unapologetically added, I want this case over, and if it means you spend time with your ex to accomplish it, then it's game on. Dante thought about it for a moment. Finding Megan was the best and most efficient way to keep Brooklyn safe. Even if it doesn't put her out of the line of fire, it freed him up to focus on watching over her. Look, while I'm up for spending time with Brooklyn, we need to find out who's behind sending our client to us and why. We also need to find out how Megan met her husband, so Brooklyn is not at the top of the list. Lang raised an eyebrow at him. For all we know, they found what they were looking for. If she has another incident or say she thinks someone is still following her again, we'll reassess things. Dante looked at the scowl on Lang's face. Look, if I put a male to follow her, it will be hard to tell if she's still being followed or if it's our people. All the other females I trust to watch over her have other obligations right now, but will be free to help me out in a couple of days. If she has another incident before that happens, then I will put someone on her immediately. Lang gave him a very stern, motherly look. I think if it was any other person besides Brooklyn, you would have put someone on her. Our concentration should be on doing what we were hired to do, which was to find Megan. You're right. Hopefully, finding Megan will help Brooklyn out as well. Nevertheless, if something happens to Brooklyn because you didn't want to spy on her, she tilted her drink towards him. You will never forgive yourself. Think about it. I will. Lang set her drink down on the table, and when you do spend time with her, we need you to be a nosy investigator, not an ex-lover. I'm hoping that we'll resolve our case without me having to play PI with my ex. Dante drank his soft drink. Lang grabbed her stuff and headed for the door. All right. I'll meet you tomorrow around this time for the update. Be safe, Dante instructed as he threw out the trash and began gathering his stuff. He knew why Lang was so sensitive. The traumatic assignment that led to her husband's death had a similar feel to this. Like now, the information they had before them wasn't quite what they thought. They known they were going into a precarious situation in an attempt to save their client's sister. They found his sister and found out that she was not in danger, but she'd gone into hiding from her foster brother. They'd informed him that they were not able to find her, returning most of his money, minus the non-refundable deposit and expenses. After they had wrapped things up with the client, Lang had rushed home for her belated anniversary. Dante had gotten a gut feeling that something wasn't right and decided to follow her out. When she had pulled out, he noticed the client's car trailing her. He had rushed to his car. He just wished she had picked up the phone when he got caught by a train. It may have saved both her and her husband's lives. That's why they created 2 emergency numbers. The first one rings police sirens for very important things. The second ring was a shrieking alarm for things that escalated to extremely dangerous. To this day, Dante couldn't believe that the client had murdered Lang's husband and almost killed her to get the whereabouts of his sister out of Lang. For 6 months, Lang was out of work. It was years before Lang stopped doing support and recon and took an occasional case. Now this case turned out to be more complicated and deadly than expected. They needed to wrap it up. The longer they worked the case, the more jittery Lang became, and that was alarming and potentially deadly for him and everyone involved. It didn't help that he was thrown off his game by having Brooklyn involved. With neither him nor Lang on top of their games, it was in their best interest to solve the case quickly, even if it meant going against some company policies. Hunter sat in his office, placing orders for the club to make sure he would be available to enjoy dinner with Brooklyn without interruption. It was a pleasant surprise when she called after the movies to say she decided she would not work late on Monday if he was up to going out for dinner. Normally he didn't work Mondays, but switched his off days. He had come in to meet with some clients to discuss their upcoming VIP event at his club. Hunter rechecked his order against the client's request to make sure he hadn't missed anything. Then he hit submit. He was wrapping up the last of his to-do list when his cell phone rang. Levi's cell number hadn't graced his screen in years. Man, what's up? Hunter swiveled his chair to stick the file he had been working with in his follow-up bin on the counter behind his desk. I haven't heard from you in a minute. Yeah, I'm trying to fly under the radar these days. Contacting old friends sometimes bring up old memories, and I find myself falling into old ways, Levi answered. So why call now? I'm assuming you got that urge to go back to your old ways under control. Hunter checked his clock and began shutting down his computer. It was necessary. Have you heard from Ryan? Levi asked. He grabbed his car keys out of his top drawer. Not in a couple of weeks. I thought he was clean and staying out of trouble. He's part owner of some media company, mainly handling their shipping division. I thought that too. That is, until this weekend when his partner died in a suspicious explosion. Levi sighed. I hope Ryan isn't in trouble, but I can't shake the feeling that something's wrong. When was the last time you spoke with him? Hunter grabbed his jacket off the back of the chair. Levi answered with his voice full of concern. A couple of months ago, but that's not unusual. We tend to play phone tag, but at least he usually returns my texts. Have you spoken to Vince? Hunter inquired as he locked up and headed to his ride. You know me and Vince fell out. Levi's voice trailed off. You want me to contact him? Hunter inquired as he got into his truck. He didn't know all the specifics. All he knew was Levi had used information provided by Vince to blackmail someone. If you could, I would appreciate it. If Ryan's in trouble, Vince will find out. I don't think he'd hold what I did against Ryan. Levi sounded as if he was trying to convince himself. Hunter sat waiting on the garage door to open. I'll get Vince on it, and I'll check in with you later. Thanks. Hopefully my old lifestyle has me thinking the worst, and my baby brother is just distracted by living his own life. Levi muttered goodbye, then disconnected. Hunter switched to hands-free before pulling out, then called to confirm with Brooklyn that she was still meeting him for dinner. They agreed to eat at a restaurant near her job. He was curious about the incident that happened that pushed back their dinner plans for 2 hours, but she said she'd tell him once they met at the restaurant. Hunter made a quick call to Vince before he forgot. He was at a light at the end of her block when he noticed Brooklyn heading out of the building. Hunter went to call her, but before he could dial the number, he saw the danger she was about to step into, and the light couldn't change fast enough. Chapter 20. Brooklyn swung her computer bag onto her shoulder as she headed to her car. She was a little leery of leaving her bag in the car after the break-in at the office. However, she didn't feel that taking it to the restaurant was the best plan either. After pushing her dinner plans with Hunter back 2 hours, she didn't want to have him wait longer while she dropped the computer off at home. Brooklyn glanced around to see if the guy from earlier was still lingering around, but she saw no one. She was almost at her car when she felt the strap being yanked from her shoulder, which caused her to completely lose grip on the bag. Brooklyn turned quickly, grabbing the bag straps. She and the would-be thief struggled for control of the bag. He released the bag like he was going to let her have it, and that sent her and the bag tumbling to the ground. He grabbed the bag and took off running. Brooklyn took off after him, jumping on his back and putting her arms around his neck. I'm not going to make it that easy for you, she started, tightening her grip on his neck. He tried to jab her with his elbow. Then he spun her around, trying to get her off his back. To her surprise, he dropped the bag as he took his hand and pushed both of her legs back. Before she knew it, she could feel his body pitch forward. She locked her knees onto his back to prevent him from throwing her forward. He then shifted his weight backwards. Brooklyn groaned as his body smashed her into the pavement. He stood, grabbing the bag and running away. Hunter ran over to her. You okay? Don't let him get away. She pointed at the guy running down the street with her bag. Hunter ran after him. When he looked back and saw that Hunter was behind him, he cut between two cars. Hunter followed him and almost tripped over Brooklyn's computer bag. He bent down, then stood back up. Why did you stop chasing him? Brooklyn came up from behind Hunter, hitting him on the back. He held the bag up so she could see it. 'Cause I thought it was the bag that you wanted. Hunter handed her the bag, then picked up the files that were scattered on the ground. Sheesh, what is really going on? First my office, then this? Brooklyn threw the files into the bag. Do you want to file a police report? Hunter inquired as she looked through her bag. I don't think so. The computer is here. It seems like all the files are here. I'll double check later. Brooklyn hoped she didn't regret that decision. How about this? We either go to your place or mine and order food in. Hunter grabbed her laptop bag from her as they walked to her car. Let's do my place. How about you order it, pick it up, and meet me at my place? Brooklyn pulled out her car keys. How about this? I'll order the food and have it delivered to your place. No way after this incident am I going to let you go home alone. Hunter grabbed her keys out of her hands, glancing at his truck parked in a no parking zone. Brooklyn slid into her car, grabbed her keys and bag from him. Well, I want orange shrimp and egg rolls. I got you. Hunter closed her door, quickly trotting across the street before he got towed. Once in his truck, Hunter put his hazard lights on until Brooklyn pulled out. He dialed and ordered their food. He shook his head, picturing Brooklyn jumping on the guy's back. Following her car, he kept checking the rearview mirror to make sure they weren't being followed. His cell phone rang. Hey, Vince. Thanks for getting back to me so quickly. Hunter sat behind Brooklyn at a light as it started to lightly drizzle. You were right. Ryan is in trouble. From what I hear, he's had a few run-ins and is in hiding. Give me a few days and I'll find out the whole story. He flicked on his windshield wipers as he pulled off. Thanks. Hunter, don't let Ryan and Levi pull you into any craziness, Vince reminded him. Hey, isn't that what I have you for? To make sure I keep my hands clean while I continue to watch my boys back? Yeah, we've been boys for a long time, but you need to cut the cord on some friendships. Vince's voice indicated that he was serious. Look, I know you and Levi fell out, Hunter, but Vince immediately cut him off. Levi has some heat on him that you don't need in your life. If you allow him, hey, I know, Hunter stated, defending his actions. Up until Ryan pulled a disappearing act, I hadn't heard from him, so I don't think he wants to catch up over drinks. He just wants to make sure his brother is all right. Fine, Vince huffed. I'm just warning you to keep your conversation with Levi short and only about his brother. Don't go back down memory lane. I get the message loud and clear, Hunter told Vince. Good. Is Brooklyn being followed again, Vince asked. I don't think so, but someone attempted to snatch her bag tonight. Hunter watched as Brooklyn pulled into a parking spot in front of her building. He checked the cars on the street and there were no cars that stood out. I'll dig into that further for you. Something about this is bothering me. Since Brooklyn's up to be my next place sister, I got to make sure everything's all right. Bye, Vince. Hunter shook his head, smiling. Laughter filled Hunter's ear. Oh, you don't want to talk about your new love interest? I'd rather spend time with her than talking about her. Hunter parked the truck while keeping an eye on Brooklyn the best he could. I'll let you have that. Bye. Vince ended the call. Hunter got out of the truck and ran up the street to catch up with Brooklyn. He grabbed her computer bag, monitoring the street for trouble. Is the food on its way? Brooklyn questioned as they headed to the door. Yes, it's on the way. I can follow instructions, Miss Thing, Hunter said sarcastically as she opened the common door. She jogged up the stairs to her apartment. This has been a crazy day. It seems like it. Now I'm wondering if I should have filled out a police report. She spoke as they entered her apartment. I got the laptop back, but... She locked the door and then pointed to where Hunter should sit the bag down. What about the files? Hunter asked as he grabbed a seat on the couch. Well, I didn't bring any business file home. They were personal files. One was full of my personal goals and projects for the next 5 years. The other was my research on houses, neighborhoods, and statistics. Brooklyn kicked her shoes off near the door, then pulled off her suit jacket and laid it over the chair. With them redoing the waterfront, I would really like to purchase something in Southwest. Every time I come into Southwest, it feels like a new building is popping up. In a couple of years, this area will be the place to be. Hunter picked up the remote. I know, right? Brooklyn exclaimed as she picked up her computer bag. Maybe you should call the police station, Hunter insisted, noticing Brooklyn staring at the bag for a moment before locking it up. See if they say you should file a report. If they say yes, then we'll ride down and get it done. If they say no, Hunter shrugged his shoulders as Brooklyn walked past him, pulling her shirt out of her pants. I'm about to change into some chill wear. I'll be right back. She smiled, cutting her eyes back at him. You can change right here. Hunter gave her a sly grin before flipping through the TV channels. Funny, I'll keep that in mind for a later date, when we won't be interrupted by our food being delivered. She smiled seductively as she unbuttoned a few buttons on her shirt before heading to her room. She emerged 20 minutes later, barefoot and wearing brown-fitted jogging pants with a light tan tank top that had the words brown sugar written on the front. Hunter looked up from the television and shook his head. I was expecting something different since it took so long for you to come out. I decided to call the police station. Brooklyn sat on the couch, then kicked her legs over Hunter's thigh. So what did they say? Hunter shifted his leg slightly so he was angled to look at her. Since nothing was taken, they stated I can let it go. But if it happens again, I definitely need to make sure I fill out a report. Brooklyn frowned. I don't know if I should believe the officer. He didn't seem to want to be bothered with me. You sure Trivision meter is above board? I can't recall you having issues like this before. Hunter's hand glided up and down Brooklyn's leg as he spoke. With a wickedly seductive glint to his eye, Hunter's hands moved to her upper thigh. He could tell by the way Brooklyn responded they were about to be in trouble. I guess we can get something to drink while we wait for the food. She quickly swung her legs off his lap and stood. What do we have? 30 to 40 minutes before it comes? She took a deep breath and tried to stop thinking too much about the decision she would eventually have to make between Dante and Hunter. It shouldn't be that long. Hunter watched as Brooklyn just stood there staring at him. When I call before I leave work, it comes at least 45 minutes to an hour after I get home. Brooklyn looked at her watch as if she was mentally recalculating the estimated delivery time. Trust me, it won't take that long. Back to Trivision. They were following you before. Do you think they're behind the break-in and the attempted snatching of your bag? Haven't a clue, Brooklyn replied as she headed into the kitchen. What are you drinking tonight? Wine, beer, or soda? I better stick to the soda since you plan to kick me out early tonight. He noticed that she was lost in thought for a moment and attributed to all that had happened at her work earlier. Who said I was kicking you out early? Brooklyn grabbed 2 glasses from the cabinet, rinsing them before filling them with ice. BK, I believe your exact words to me were dinner, no dessert. We can't stay out late. Hunter smiled as his phone rang. It looked like the food is here. What? They never delivered so quickly. Brooklyn checked her watch. Hunter held up his finger. Hey, where are you? He lifted the phone, speaking to Brooklyn. Buzz him in. A minute later, there was a knock on the door. He walked over to the door and looked in the peephole before opening it. Thanks for the quick service, Hunter said as he pulled out his wallet. For you, anything. He handed him the bag. You know there's no charge for this. Hunter passed some money to him. Just accept this as appreciation of your time and fast service. Hunter put his wallet back into his pocket. Will I see you this Friday? The delivery guy asked as he slid the money into his pocket. Most definitely. Take care. Hunter closed and locked the door, then turned to see Brooklyn standing with her hand on her hips and head cocked to the side. BK, you should know the service is always better when you're with me. He laughed and headed to the dining room table. You're spoiling my behind, making it hard for all the average brothers to come after you. She came over and set the 2 glasses down. I'm working hard to convince you that you can't do better than me. Hunter pulled the food out of the bag. Whatever, Hunter. You're spoiling me now, but when you find your new Sophia, you're going to drop me like a hotcake. Brooklyn teased as she went back into the kitchen for plates and silverware. Yeah, right, BK. You want to put it on me because you don't want to be the heartbreaker in this scenario. Hunter responded as Brooklyn re-entered the dining room. Me? The heartbreaker? Never. Brooklyn looked at him, smiling devilishly as she sat down. Hunter raised his eyebrows as he piled food on his plate. So you never told me how brunch with your ex went. When she didn't answer, he said, well, tell me about your day then. Clearly, it had a lot going on. Brooklyn poured sweet and sour sauce over her egg rolls, then told him all about the break-in at work and her call to Dante because she thought he was having her follow to prove a point. Since it wasn't your ex, do you think it's Trivision following you again? Hunter asked between bites. I guess maybe I need to do a little more research on the client. Most of my research is usually focused on the company the client is trying to acquire. Brooklyn responded, sounded as she didn't want to say too much. Can I have some of your egg foo young? Since ordering Chinese is a cheat for me, I usually always stick to my favorite. Help yourself, Hunter slid the box near her. There's also crab ragout and pot stickers. I never seen pot stickers on their menu. Brooklyn reached in, grabbing one. At one point they were, but when they reduced the menu, it was taken off. They'll still make them for me. Hunter smiled and waited to see if she was going to make a smart comment. So how was your day? Brooklyn asked, thoroughly enjoying the food. Not as exciting as yours, just pushing papers today. Hunter thought back to his conversation with Levi and Vince. He decided not to mention it to Brooklyn. They talked about the latest news and celebrities, laughing about the most embarrassing moments in their past. Hunter helped Brooklyn clean up, and they returned to the living room. It was midnight before they knew it. Even though Brooklyn had to work in the morning, she didn't want the night to end. Brooklyn teased him about keeping her up late. He laughed, pulling her into his arms. She resisted the urge to give him a reason to stay. Hunter gave her a quick kiss on the cheek and told her to be safe, then left. Brooklyn locked up behind him, grinning from ear to ear. Something about being with Hunter was good for her soul. All the stress and pressure of the workday just dissipated. The atmosphere he created was becoming addictive. While she loved Dante and was extremely comfortable with him, he never made her feel this sense of peace and feeling of home. She had yet to confirm whether the rumors and accusations of illegal dealings were correct.
Hope you enjoyed today's story. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be and stay blessed.